about Michael McGreevy in terms of, how he's progressed, Jordan Walker, about his improvements on his swing, and of course also Mason Wynn talking about, despite some of the struggles in the spring, how he's confident. Any other players or them that you'd like to comment on, or would love to hear about others as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, Mason, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and I keep going back to last year, because last year in spring training, the big question was, is he going to be able to hit enough? Everybody thought he had the defensive prowess to be a really elite defender, but was he going to hit enough? And then throughout camp, it was like, it's looking kind of, rough. He had a sort of a swing adjustment that he was making late in the camp. He was able to do it. You could see it. He knew what he was trying to do. You could see it in batting practice. It wasn't happening in the games, but then the regular season started, and exactly what he was trying to do, you saw, and he got off to a hot start and was one of their better hitters throughout the season. This year, he hasn't quite been able to have things click the way it did last year, so he's still working on that. But the three names that I think have been coming up throughout the off season, as far as guys who they really think have high potential, but they haven't put it together yet, is Lars Nootbaar, Jordan Walker, who you mentioned, and Nolan Gorman. And Lars has had a pretty good camp. Jordan and Nolan have still been kind of, working through some different adjustments, and they both seem to be pretty optimistic as far as working with a new hitting coach, but it hasn't quite translated, at least not consistently, to the spring training games.
I feel like it probably is with a lot of sports season. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Sometimes that preseason, or in baseball case, spring training, is so long. And before you think, oh, it's so far away to start. And as I look at the schedule, I'm like, oh my goodness, 2 more spring training games, and then, or 2 more spring training games, and then home opener, Twins and Cardinals, Thursday, March 27th. That's less than a week away. How do the games with the Marlins and spring training game with the Nationals set the Cardinals up, if it does that at all, for a good home opener here in St. Louis?
I think this is finally when we'll probably start to see something close to the lineup that they're going to start the season with, because they like to say split squad. You literally split some of the group up. So like Jordan Walker was in Port St. Lucie, but you had guys like Nootbaar, Wilson Contreras, Mason Wynn were all here in Jupiter. Nolan Gorman was actually out. He wasn't in either game because he was sick. And so, but I think at least in these last couple of days, we'll probably see something closer to the lineup that they're planning to go into the season with. So that will be interesting to see, have an idea where he's going to slot guys in the lineup, who's going to be, maybe be the starting center fielder, which has sort of still been up in the air. And in the next couple of days, we expect them to sort of finalize what the roster is going to look like. There's just a few spots that are sort of still more or less up for grabs, or down to a couple of guys competing. But those things should become pretty evident in the next couple of days.
So you've got just a little bit more time down there in spring training. You yourself eventually head back to St. Louis, the team back to St. Louis for opening day. Can you give a little preview on the day as a whole for what that looks like between now and then for yourself, and of course of all the Cardinals fans in Cardinal Nation who probably won't be going to work that day?
Yeah, well,
or everybody will go to work together.
Yeah,
at the game.
Hopefully they're not working anywhere near Ballpark Village, because that's going to be a tough one to get to.
Yes, sir.
I think I learned that the hard way a couple years ago about the first home opener that I went to. I thought I left early to get to the ballpark, and I was wrong. Early is not early if it's opening day. But yeah, between now and then, they've got 2 more spring training games. They break camp. I think they're leaving Monday morning. I'm not 100% sure if it's Sunday night or Monday morning. They are actually going to play 1 exhibition game in Memphis, which is basically going to be the Major League roster against the AAA roster. So that's going to be on Monday night. And then Tuesday, there's no game or anything like that. Wednesday, there's going to be a workout at Busch Stadium, which is when, you'll have the full roster that's going to be there for opening day. Those guys taking batting practice. I believe the Twins take batting practice first, or they do their workout first in the afternoon. And so then later in the afternoon is going to be the Cardinals. And so then opening day is on Thursday, and that should be a packed house. They already put out a list of some of the Hall of Famers. supposed to be in attendance because, they always do a big pregame ceremony with the Red Jacket Hall of Famers. So that's already starting to trickle out some of that stuff. Next week will be, sort of that unofficial start of spring with the baseball season starting in St. Louis, and the Red Jackets and Ballpark Village should be alive with crowds of people, and then we'll see what the Cardinals have in store for us this season.
Thanks, Len, for your time tonight, and go Cards.
All right. Thanks for having me. That
was Lynn Worthy, sports columnist for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, talking a little bit more detail about the Cardinals. I can't believe we're here. I can't believe it's going to be Thursday. And here we go with another pro team in St. Louis playing sports, which, of course, all St. Louisans love. We're a great sports town. Love it. All right. Hang with us. UFL football, believe it or not, is also almost upon us. We'll talk Battlehawks with their Director of Communications, Brian Stull. He's next on KMOX.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. I've been asked many times how Morgan & Morgan became the largest injury firm in the world. I think I know. When someone comes to us for an on-the-job injury, we have a huge workers' compensation practice. But many times we find a defective product that was responsible for that injury. Luckily for them, we have a product liability section headed by my son, Mike. In addition to the comp case, there's a product case too. Other times, the injured worker is fired or harassed for bringing that claim. We have them covered. Our employment lawyers handle retaliation claims as well as wage theft and discrimination cases, and in some cases need to file for Social Security benefits. No problem. We became big for a reason. 30% of our new cases come as referrals from former clients. Hiring us is easy. Go to forthepeople.com on your mobile device or computer, or call Pound Law on your cell, pound 529. Morgan & Morgan. Injured? Dial Pound Law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
The KMOX First Pitch Breakfast presented by Budweiser is Thursday and features an unfiltered conversation with the Cardinals Hall of Famer Vince Coleman. Tables are on sale now and include a delicious breakfast buffet, bottomless mimosas, Bloody Marys, and an ice-cold Budweiser. Plus, you'll get 2 free tickets to Saturday's Cards Twins game. Start this unofficial holiday with KMOX, Budweiser, Overhead Door Company, St. Louis Composting, Rally House, and Dirt Cheap. Get 20% off your table now by using the code KMOX. Everything you need at KMOX.com/events.
Need a lawyer? Onder wins. Call Onder Law at 314-9-MILLION. That's 314-9 all zeros. Or go to onderwins.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
The Rockwood School District has openings and is looking for people who enjoy working with kids to drive buses, work in the school cafeteria, clean buildings, work as groundskeepers, work with kids in the before and after school program, and much more. Rockwood is a great place to work. Outstanding benefits, positive, caring work environment, competitive pay, working with kids, and really a fun working environment. You can find out more at rsdmo.org/jobs.
Hello, Stacy again from Fairwinds Rivers Edge Senior Living, telling you about our spring special. Move by the end of April and get a great discount off 3 months rent. Not ready to move? No better time than the present to start planning. Come experience the environment at our 50s Sock Hop featuring Trilogy on Thursday, April 17th. RSVP to 636-754-2317 or visit us online at fairwindsriversedge.com.
Immerse yourself in the beauty of Debussy and Liszt. Lyrical daydreams with the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra and music director Stéphane Deneuve. Drift into the sensuous haze of Debussy's Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun. Feel the elemental power of Liszt's Les Préludes and be swept away by tenor Michael Spires in Mahler's Songs of a Wayfarer and Britten's Les Illuminations. March 28th and 30th at the Two Hill Performing Arts Center. Tickets at slso.org.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, millions of men experience ED, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. At HIMSS, our own board-certified urologist, Dr. Peter Stahl, knows this better than anyone, and he knows that HIMSS can help.
Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Stahl, Senior Vice President of Men's Sexual Health at HIMSS. I've helped many guys with ED, and it has never been more convenient to treat than it is right now, thanks to HIMSS.
Through Hims.com, you can access a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs. Options at up to 95% less than the brand names when you get started at hims.com/joy. To start your free online visit and find ED treatment at up to 95% less than brand name prices, go to hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Nope, Matt Pauley will be back with you next week. Jen Seiss filling in for Matt on a Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Again, Matt back in the saddle next week to bring you all things Cardinals baseball, St. Louis Blues, city soccer, and all the other things he talks about. And what I get to talk about more tonight is, actually, I just love saying their name, the St. Louis Battlehawks. That is a killer name. I love that name. And joining me now is Brian Stull, Director of Communications for the Battlehawks. Brian, I don't know how you guys picked that name, but I just love it so much.
It's fun. It's fun. No, it is. Yeah, now I got to hear it, Jen. You got a good call as well.
Battlehawks. I just love that. It's it's a go out and get. How can you not be pumped? But of course,
Absolutely.
you guys are going to take on in your first. I can't believe your season. So we're talking about how my main sport is St. Louis City SC. So we've been underway, of course, going for a little bit, but now we've got everything happening next week in terms of Cardinal baseball. The Blues are closing down their regular season slowly, and you guys are also starting up with your first game against Houston just Friday, a week from today, the Houston Roughnecks, another pretty cool name. What's in store for fans? I did read a article really quick today about cutting down the roster, and I know that there was an article earlier on how there was a deadline for that, but now the cuts have been made, and it seems like some fans were a little surprised.
Yeah, it's always tough at the end of training camp for Coach Beck and the rest of the staff to, whittle things down. There were 64 players who were in training camp. These were guys who, over the course of, basically a month, blood, sweat, and tears trying to earn their spot on the roster. But there's only so much room. The league mandates that you can only carry 50 players. So 14 players had to get released, but of that, there will be a lot of familiar faces that are returning. 29 players from last year's squad, as a matter of fact, including, Offensive Player of the Year, Akeem Butler, he's back. Special Teams Player of the Year, Chris Garrett is back. Running back Jacob Sailors, Willie Harvey, who set a league record for tackles last year, he's back on the defensive side of things. So, there's definitely some familiar faces, but then there's some new faces that came into camp. Some fans might remember the likes of a Chase Allen, who played tight end up at Northern Iowa, but he's from the southwest portion of Missouri. Had a stint with the Chicago Bears. He's one of the new tight ends to pair up with Jake Sutherland. A couple familiar names like a Nate Metters, as well as Lucas Dennis, who played with the Battlehawks in 2023. Then they went and played in the NFL last year, and now they're back. So, again, it's going to be fun. And as you mentioned, believe it or not, literally 1 week from now, we're going to be kicking things off down in Houston. And then we've got the big home opener Sunday, April 6th, 5:30 down at the Battle Dome, as we like to say.
God, the best names. I'm telling you, sports teams need to be named. They need to come to you guys. That just gets you up and pumping. I look back to when the new schedule was released. It says for the first time ever, the Battlehawks will play 6 home games during this season, as opposed to traditional 5 home games. What's that like? Is it a big change? Does that mean a whole lot more having that extra home game?
It's just another opportunity to come cheer on the Battlehawks.
Yeah.
So the reason for that is, yes, St. Louis Battlehawk fans are awesome, and yes, St. Louis deserves every game that we can get in town. But the reality is that San Antonio had a scheduling conflict because of March Madness. And so what they did was what would have been a road game for the Battlehawks against the Brahmas will now be a second game here in St. Louis. So that's why we have 6 this season. We're hoping that we have 7 and 8. We hope that we make the playoffs and get to host a game, and then hopefully here in the near future there'll be an official announcement regarding the championship, and it'd be awesome to have that here again as well.
Yeah, I take a look, and I admittedly don't know arena football as much as I should. I'm used to the sport that, in Europe calls itself football, but here it's called soccer. But looking at the schedule, the regular season runs through May 30th, and I think about that with other pro sports about how long those seasons are. What is that like to do? There's got to be so much action in what really feels like a short period of time.
It is, and it's a smaller roster because, the distinction, like you mentioned, the Arena League, that's fast, that's fun, that's furious. but it's played on a smaller field. We're playing on a legitimate, 100-yard football field, same as the NFL. So, we're playing down at the Dome here in St. Louis, and obviously, the other stadiums and facilities around the United Football League. This is a 100-yard field, so it very much, you have that 35-mile-per-hour collision on every play with the linemen and everything going. So they need that week to recover, and even then you're still battling through. And in this league, because of the fact that there's only 50 players on a roster, and not all of them are active every game, you have to play special teams as well as offense and defense. I mean, you can't just be hey, this is all I can do. That's not going to work. So you've really got to be multi-talented. And there's definitely some attrition. There's definitely wear and tear on the bodies as the season rolls on.
That was actually my next question, of just thinking about what that looks like for, especially cardiovascularly, muscle strain, those kinds of injuries that frankly sometimes just come from training, how you guys handle rotating or making sure your roster is fresh when, one, like you said, it's not so big, and two, you've got such a condensed schedule.
Yeah, no, you know what? Hats off to the trainers who do an incredible job, the trainers and the medical staff. But really, it comes down to the conditioning of the athletes during the off season. That was something that Coach Beck, not that he overly stressed the conditioning, but when you're raising the level of competition in training camp, besides battling for a job, it's like if you did not properly utilize the off season, it's going to be evident. And we had a camp where everybody came in great shape. I mean, these are guys that are hungry. They want to win a championship. They love playing in St. Louis. They love playing in front of the crowd. All of the league loves playing in front of St. Louis because of how great the crowds are. I mean, everybody gets up to come play the Battlehawks in St. Louis, which is a home field advantage, but it's also a little bit of a neutralizer because the other team's so pumped to be here. But that conditioning is huge, and really it falls on the responsibility of the players. And then Coach Beck does a tremendous job throughout the season of managing the actual days that they're in pads on the field. And so maybe you're doing a little bit more walkthroughs, you're doing a little extra meeting time.
Kind of active recovery.
Stimulate, but go easier on the body.
Yeah, like active recovery. So you're still doing things, but you got to let the body recover while you're still training, of course.
No doubt.
Like you mentioned, first game is a week away at Houston, but then your home opener in St. Louis at the Dome at America Center. What's in store for fans that day? There's always a buildup. I think opening days are one of the most fun, besides maybe last games or postseason stuff. What does St. Louis have in store? What do you have in store for St. Louis with the Battlehawks?
Well, it's going to be fun. 5:30 is the kickoff, as we mentioned, on Sunday, April 6th. If you haven't got your tickets yet, you can go to uflbattlehawks.com/tickets. And whether you want to bring a big group down, whether you want to just, get a suite, whether you just want to get 2 seats for you and a buddy, whatever the case is, everything can get you squared away at ufl.com or uflbattlehawks.com/tickets. But what we have in store is the game time kickoff is 5:30. So that means that at about 2:30, officially the tailgate at Bear Plaza, right in front of the Battle Dome, will start happening with all the vendors that'll be down there, the tents, the festivities, the face painting. The players will arrive about 90 minutes beforehand, and we'll have our battle walk where everybody can line up and cheer and high five the players as they come walking into the Dome. I'm sure there'll be some people who are camping out as early as 9 a.m., have the grills going and the beverages flowing, which will be awesome. But officially later in the afternoon is when the official events will take place, and then kickoffs at 5:30, and then we'll get ready to do it all again the next week on April 13th.
Once again, another day in St. Louis where nothing's getting done. Mow your lawns before April 6th with the home game, right?
It is. And you know what? You mentioned at the very top, Jen, like how lucky are we as sports fans to live in a city like St. Louis where we have all of these options and all of them are supported. I mean, when you think about it, again, soccer's going on, baseball's going on, the Blues are getting ready to make this playoff push. We've had golf events in town that are happening at the same time, things out at the Chess Museum, all this stuff. And St. Louis turns out in full force for all of them. I mean, that's not something to take for granted. That's just something I wake up every day and it's like, how awesome to be a part of that.
That's awesome. Brian, thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll keep an eye on it. Hope to talk with you again during your regular season with the Battlehawks.
You got it. Have a great night. Thank you.
You too. Thanks. That was Brian Stulg, Director of Communications for the St. Louis Battlehawks, whose season starts just a week away, and then they're home April 6th. Wow. What a busy show we have had to do. Thanks to all of our guests participating in Sports Open Line. Thanks to John Camp for the controls on the show. That'll do it for Sports Open Line tonight. I'm Jen Seiss filling in for Matt Pauley. Don't worry, he'll be back in the saddle next week, bringing you all things pro sports in St. Louis, and more. But hang with us. We're not done. We switch over to the city spotlight and talk U.S. men's national team last night's loss to Panama in the CONCACAF Nations League. Not a conversation I'm looking forward to. We got to talk about it. Then we switch over to all things city soccer with game analysis, a player profile, and laws of the game. More to come. Stay with us. The city spotlight is coming up right after the news here on KMOX.
Hey St. Louis, this is Ben Barnett, board-certified master arborist and owner at Timberline Professional Tree Care. As a local small business owner for the past 24 years, I always do my best to shop local and support our community. Recently, 2 of the largest tree contractors in the region have sold to out-of-town investors.